yes, that would be me dancing. Welcome to USA Global TV and Business Talk Radio. You are watching or listening to Talking Heads. I'm Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. I'm so thrilled that you're here. We're having a great day of broadcasting. I think it's officially 9 shows today. I thought it was 10, but it's 9. And I'm just having so much fun with all of our different guests. And this show will be just amazing as well, because this is a presentation platform. This is where experts from around the world come and present short lessons to help make us better personally and or professionally. Today we have 2 dynamo women, dynamite, amazing, incredible people, and they actually just met for the first time backstage, which I love that because there's always synergies with people and new collaborations to be made. All right, let's bring them out. Joining us today is Ricki, McKenna, and Diann Floyd Boehm. Hello.
Hi. Hello.
Hi. Nice to see you both. Diann, nice to see you again. And Ricki, nice to see you.
Same here. Good to see you. Excuse me. I just took a drink and I must have swallowed the wrong way.
We all understand. It's we all have our water or drink near us ready to go because it gets tough talking all the time. So I'm excited that you 2 are here, and as I mentioned, I love the fact that this is a new connection. I love bringing people together, and there's synergies between the 2 of you, and you're both in the great state of Texas. Oh, wow. Yes.
Hello,
how about that? All right, so let's get started. As always, I'm going to spotlight each of you and ask you to share with our audience, especially people who are joining us for the first time. Give us a brief overview of the work that you do and what you'll be presenting on today. I'll start with you, Ricki.
Oh, thank you. Hello, everybody. I am Ricki McKenna. I'm a certified nutritionist for 22 years now. And what inspires me is the fact that food is medicine. And I've been working with people on helping them understand what food really is and what it does for them, and for all of us. And on this program, I love Dr. Jacalyn because she encourages us to really help other people. And that's my mission in life, to help others understand what food is and how we can actually heal ourselves with food.
And your topic for today, Ricki?
My topic for today is one that's really near and dear to my heart. It's food waste. How much food we waste in America and what we can do about it.
Oh, you hit one of my hot buttons, Ricki. I'll tell you right there. I'm right with you on that. That drives me crazy.
Yes.
Crazy. Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. I look forward to that. Diann Floyd Boehm, I haven't seen you since Fashion, Fitness, Travel, and Leisure a little over an hour ago, I think. Let me spotlight you. Tell us about the work you're doing and your #1 new release on Amazon, and also about your topic for today.
Thank you, Dr. Jacalyn. It's always a pleasure to be with you. So yes, my new book, Rise, A Girl's Struggle for More, made it to the top on Amazon. So I'm just very humbled and pleased about it all. And later on, maybe I can share how they can find it. But today, I am so excited because one of my passions is genealogy. And both my parents got me into all of that many moons ago. So today, I'm going to talk about making a cookbook with your family tree.
Ooh, loving that, Diann. It's fantastic. Look forward to it. And guess what? We've got another Texan in the house, so to speak. We've got the wonderful Mr. Hyatt Ives. Good afternoon, ladies. Looking forward to both presentations. Hello, Hyatt. Good to have you with us. All right. I want to get this show rolling because these are 2 really important, exciting topics. So we're starting with Diann, and for some reason I thought it was Ricki, but it's Diann.
Okay.
So Ricki and I are going to go backstage, and Diann, we are excited to hear and watch. We'll be backstage. Bye.
Bye. Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining us. I'm going to be speaking to you about. I love to cook. Mainly, I'm really a baker. Not the greatest, but I enjoy doing it. My other passion is genealogy. I absolutely love studying family history. All of us are storytellers, but the best stories really are the ones that come from our family. And we can find out who we really are by studying. Like, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm like nobody in the family. And then, but if you know stories, and it could be like 4 generations apart, and you're like, oh my gosh, I am so like that. I used to tell my mom, you are so much like your great grandpa. Everything about him was just totally my mom, which was really exciting and then pleased her heart. And we found that through various websites, as you know, that you can do. So check those out. I don't know if I'm allowed to say them or not because I'm not sponsors, but I'll give you a hint: Ancestry. But even before that, my parents totally shared family history on both sides. And so today I want to concentrate on family genealogy with the cookbook. So I'm going to share with you, let's see if we can show you. I'm going to concentrate on the Terrell family. So today, parts of the cookbook and getting started, you have to first decide which part of the family tree you want to work with, because you have, your parents, your grandparents, etc. So pick one tree that you want to do. And in this case, for me, it was the Terrell family. I went and did another cookbook for the Patrick family. And so the same for you. And then the next one coming up will be the Floyd family. But you can take each one of these trees and you can join the families together. And I'm going to be sharing with you how to do that. So first you want to figure out what family tree branch you want to use, and that will be the base of your story. The next thing you want to do is you want to be able to contact your family members as well as your brothers, your sisters, everyone from that tree, your cousins, etc. And that's what makes it so exciting. And then you have to decide on what type of cookbook you want to do. For me, in this particular cookbook, I did everything, because you'll discover that family members, and you'll get to know your second and fourth, that's so much fun, cousins as well, that one of them, might like baking, but the other one's like, oh man, I'm all about appetizers. So in the cookbook that I'm going to share with you, we went ahead and put everything in it. I say we, but it's like me. Anyway, so we have, the main course, the appetizers, the drinks, salads, and I'm going to share with you even other parts of that. The other thing that you want to do is you're going to concentrate on the recipe. And to make it easy on everyone, you don't send them out the template. You just have them send you the recipe, and then you'll put it in the template. Otherwise, you may never get it the way you want, the font, etc. The other thing you want to do is share with them, like if they have a picture of the recipe, to put it in there. If they have the handwritten, like I have my great grandmother's handwriting, and so we've scanned that image in there. And how precious is that to know that I have my great grandmother's actual recipe with her handwriting? How special is that? So you really want to treasure those things, and we can put those in your cookbook as well. The other thing you want to do is you want to ask everyone to tell family stories, because some cousins might have known where the base of the tree is. So for example, in the Terrell family, my great grandmother and grandpa had 9 children, and out of those 9 children, that makes for lots of branches on the tree. And my grandmother was the 3rd out of 9. So her youngest brother, by the time his great grandkids were born, then my 3rd cousin Christy, her age is closer to my oldest daughter Rachel, and they're like sisters. It's amazing. But her mom grew up around great grandma. And so her mom could share a lot of stories that all of us in the family just really treasure. And she had different stories besides the ones that my mama had. And so you get to put these stories in there if you choose. I love stories, so they're great. And then I have included in there who's who. And the who's who is I put, which I'll be showing you pictures of. I put the base of the family or the root of the family. So we have the Terrell family and the pictures of all the 9 kids and who their children were so that we could go from there. And then you are ready to begin building your story. So like I showed you, the first thing I did for the cover is I put the picture of the homestead where everybody grew up. So if you're lucky enough to have that, you can do that. The next thing I did was I put in what is the my great grandma and great grandpa, and I put in interesting information. Now, a side note, I taught school, and so I know in 2nd grade and then in middle school, you do genealogy a little bit. And so this cookbook serves a lot of purposes besides filling your tummy and having great family stories. It also helps with the kiddos to find about their genealogy and share it. And so in this case, I put the purpose of the cookbook and why I wanted to do it. And I'm sure you'll have a great purpose too. And then who's who, so that in each branch, so like Ruby Terrell Harris is a branch with who she married and her children, which led to us. And then my Aunt Rilla, for example, who she married and her children, etc. And that's how you build the branches and then get your cousins as well. And the who's who part, that is the branches of the tree. And then there'll be another fun little who's who that I do. The other thing that I discovered in really getting into genealogy, I found it so fascinating, the maiden names. So when I do the cookbook, I put in not just the name Terrell, but I put every single married name and or maiden names that come through. So like my great grandma Terrell, her maiden name was Patrick. And so Patrick is in there. And my mom's married name was Floyd, obviously, but her maiden name was Harris. And with her recipes, we put in Harris. And that also aids in knowing where you want to go and more people. And as you study and do genealogy, you can use your cookbook and go, oh my gosh, there they are. They're right there. So that makes it exciting as well. So you want to put in the participating family names, and the maternal names are very important as well. And then you want to put your name in there because you published it and who edited it. And in this case, my oldest daughter is really good at editing, so she found all my mistakes because you've got to have lots of eyeballs on things. Then I put in the family tree, the actually getting started, and went from there. And your cousins are so important. And they're the ones that are going to actually, add so much more to your cookbook. I suggest always putting a picture of the writer who put the cookbook together and you or your husband or friend or whoever is putting it together that you want to give gratitude for. So I did a picture. There we go. And I did a letter, and then I signed it too, so that even when I'm gone and hopefully in heaven one day, the people that follow me will see this and they'll have my handwriting and they'll come to understand why I designed this particular cookbook. The other thing that we did that my mama suggested was she gave me this incredibly fun recipe, and it helped set the stage for my great grandmother was born in the 1800s, and so she saw a lot. She saw from stagecoach all the way to the moon, and but to get a feel for what life was like, we put in this recipe that my mother found that many moons ago when she was a young girl, and it's called washing, not washing, but washing, because people spelled a lot of the ways they pronounced things back then. And it's a hysterical thing that I would love to share with y'all one day. Washing clothes recipe, and it had to do with how to scrub your clothes and wash your clothes before there was ever a wash machine. And then I put in there, besides all the other things, the drinks, the appetizers, soups, salads, side dishes, main dishes. But I added kids' recipes because kids are important too. And I wanted them to feel like they had a part in the family cookbook. Then I added men's style of cooking, and that was hysterical because some of the men were like, okay, you get in the car, you turn on the car, and they did step by step until they went through a drive-through and picked out their meal. I think today some of them would probably just say they called someone and it was delivered. But it was really fun to have that, and you really got a feel for the personalities in your extended family, and it brings you together closer. And before you know it, you're starting to have more gatherings with the family that you hadn't been around with in a long time. So growing with the family is just incredible. The other part that I wanted to share with you is I added fun facts. So if people had fun facts about each other, I added that. I added a who's who, where you take different family pictures of people when they were little, and of all the cousins, and I mixed it all up, and the cousins could guess who was who. And the next page it said who it was, and they would discover how much they looked like different people and thought, wait, that was me. Like, oh my gosh, you look just like me. And even though there might be generations apart. And so that's just a fun little thing I added to the recipes. And then the trees keep growing. So I put in the grandkids, I put in the names of the namesakes, and it was really fun to see how many people use the name Terry or Terrell or Patrick or Jane that honored some of the same people. So we had cousins who met each other for the first time and discovered that I loved great grandma too. So I used the name Jane. Well, my granddaughter's named Jane because I loved great grandma too. So it just, again, it brings people together. And of course, we ended up having great recipes, like incredible recipes. We had recipes that dated all the way back to the 1800s with my great grandmother, her recipe that dealt with how to make biscuits on a coal fire, all the way to her stories about transferring from cooking with coal to having a stove for the first time. So those stories are really great. To wonderful crock pot recipes. The recipes are just phenomenal. And you'll discover that you might use that cookbook more than any other cookbook because there's just something that happens that's magical because you're sitting there thinking about that person who either created the story, recipe, or they have a story that goes with the recipe. And it just has a way of bringing you together and just makes you feel content, especially with some of the winter recipes. The other part I added is because, I want people to know their family history. So I added where in each section would be about a family. So let's say my brother Larry, I had his family in the very back and how they connect to the Terrell family, pictures, and all their children. But I also have facts like this is what he likes to do. This is what he did he was a fireman. Some of the favorite things to do, to go outside and explore, so that people get to know and say, oh man, he's so interesting. I'd really like to get to know him. But also interesting facts about the Terrell family. Great grandma, she was a seamstress, she was a midwife, she was the CEO of the family, et cetera, et cetera. And great-grandpa fought in the Spanish-American War. He was a Freemason. He helped establish the town of Oilton so that it's no longer just a name, but it's a beautiful piece of history. And maybe that's where you see where you get the fire in the gut to be who you want to be. So genealogy, family tree, and recipe. How could anyone go wrong? Thank you, Dr. Jacalyn.
That's beautiful. Yes.
I just love it.
Yes,
Exciting.
yes, that's outstanding, Diann.
Thank you.
Wow. Ricki, you put a really nice comment. Do you want to share with Diann what you wrote?
Sure. I love this whole idea. I'm going to share it with my cousin Danny. She's the one in my family right now, besides my daughter, who is doing the ancestry things. And it's great to relate to our ancestors and all the other fun things that you put in. And I don't know that she's doing all that, or either of them are doing it. And everything, it's funny because I'm a foodie, and everything in there, of course, relates to food, but it's the family and bringing it together. Yeah. And that's frankly one of the things I miss, having moved from New York many, many years ago, and a whole family, I mean, cousins, aunts, uncles, and all over the place, to nobody except my brother. Well, my brother counts, but you know, the whole extended family, and you've got all of that in there. That's just beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
It's really beautiful.
And you know, it's so much fun. So you can see some of the old timey pictures and stuff.
Yeah, that would be great.
And you know, I see my great nephews taking the family cookbook, and they take it to school when they're studying genealogy.
Super.
And so it really has so many purposes. And I could actually turn this into a business. So many people have asked me to do it, but
I was just thinking that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't
Yes.
you? That's, you enjoy doing it. Go for it, girl.
I barely have time to do it. But I wish I could one day.
Well, thank you for inspiring all of us. That's such a great idea.
Thank you so much.
I love it.
I'm very passionate about it. Could you tell?
Yeah, yes.
Yes. So that's what we want. We want passion coming across on this platform to inspire other people. And you just did that. So thank you very much.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right. We are going to take a quick break, and I'm going to inspire us with some music. I love music on a Friday, and gets us all in a good mood. So if we come back and I'm dancing, I'm going to own it. All right, we're going to watch two music videos. And of course, I'm playing the one from my vocal coach, and her name is Madeline Chan. She's over in the UK. And then we will hear from the debutantes. Okay, let's take a look.
Great.
By your love, what you giving me is just not enough. I need a love to take me higher and higher and higher. Every step I take, I feel more awake. Getting closer now, I feel so alive. Stopping me, this is how I live. Ever closer now. Just follow love. Love will take you there. Just follow love. Follow me. Just follow love. Love will take you there. Just follow love. Follow me. Follow love.
Hello, boys and girls, and welcome to Story Garden. Your host, Diann Boehm. I'm so happy to have you here today.
Diann Floyd Boehm tells wonderful stories that warm the heart, spark the imagination, and unite people and families across generations. For children, Diann's Harry the Camel connects with all of us who've ever wondered how different our lives might have been if only we'd been born something better, like a wonderful horse instead of an ordinary camel. In the end, we all learn along with Harry that there's nothing better than just being yourself. Diann's Little Girl in the Moon looks down on earthbound children and wonders if they know she's just like them. A story of love, home, and the bond between mother and daughter, its powerful theme that we're each of us different yet all of us the same plants a seed in children that promises to blossom within a loving and trusting grown-up. Diann's new biography, Rise, recounts the experiences of her grandmother, Ruby, to reveal the hidden strength of the human spirit. Ruby's story inspires all of us to become the best versions of ourselves. You'll find all of Diann's delightful books and much more at diannfloydboehm.com. Visit diannfloydboehm.com. That's diannfloydboehm.com.
Welcome back to USA Global TV and Business Talk Radio. You're watching or listening to Talking Heads. In the first part of our show, Diann Floyd Boehm led us through a fantastic presentation about how to combine a love for food and recipes with ancestry and family and bringing it all together in a really family cookbook. What are you calling it, Diann? Ancestry cookbook?
No,
Family cookbook. Wonderful.
With the name of the family, sorry to interrupt, but you have to include that particular branch. So like the Terrell family, so you know which family you're concentrating on as the root.
Oh, okay. Another good tip. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Ricki McKenna is going to talk to us about that subject of wasting food. So important. All right, Diann, you and I are going backstage. Ricki, we will be watching.
Thank you, Dr. Jacalyn. Thank you so much. And welcome to my kitchen, basically. I am Ricki McKenna, and my kitchen is not only for food, but it's food for thought. And being thoughtful about how you buy food, how you store it, and of course, how you prepare it is one of the things that I promote daily. I am very passionate about all that simply because I love food. I love to eat. And I find that I'm very dismayed and discouraged, but hopeful, very hopeful that we can rectify the food waste in America, because it's a little scary to me how much food we actually waste. And here's some of what I call food for thought. So just to give you it, I'm going to give you a little bit of statistics today. I hope not to make it's not going to be dry, but I want it to be a wake-up call so that those of us who understand what's going on with our food, and in America in particular, we can save our country, save our planet, and share the food. This is really important to me. It's unfortunate, but the United States discards more food than any other country in the world. Nearly 40 million tons, or 80 billion pounds. That's almost as bad as the budget every year. And that's estimated to be about 30 or 40% of the entire U.S. food supply. To me, that's huge. And it equates to something ridiculous like 220 pounds of food per year per person. That's a little scary. And a lot of it goes into the garbage. Unfortunately, it doesn't get recycled anywhere. It goes into landfills where most discarded food goes. Now, there's a difference if you have a garbage disposal, which can eat it up, and that will put it into the trash. It'll go away and be better taken care of than if you were to just throw it in the garbage that goes into a landfill. Because what happens in the landfills is food waste turns into methane gas, which is poisonous. And so we waste about 1.4 billion tons of food every year globally. But why? I often wonder, I ask people that. There is a lot of what's called food insecurity in America. Unfortunately, in the United States, we still have places that are called food deserts. Those include neighborhoods where there is no supermarket, where there is no really good fresh produce that's brought in every day, or at least every few days, as there are in bigger cities and bigger places where there are bigger, larger chain grocery stores, or even your neighborhood grocery stores. So food waste in America is kind of a challenge, but it unfortunately transfers over all socioeconomic disparities. There's confusion, and there are ingrained beliefs that are in. We have human behaviors that lead to this, and food spoilage, whether it's real or perceived, is one of the biggest reasons that people throw out food. I know I have a lot of clients and friends who say, well, I don't buy this much fresh produce because it doesn't get used. It goes bad. It turns yucky. So one of the things that I do advocate is learn to store properly. If you're going to buy a whole head of lettuce instead of maybe the packages that you can buy, which have already cut up lettuce and prepared lettuce like that you're going to just grab and use, that's fine. But if you buy the whole head, I recommend washing it, separating it, washing it completely, and getting it as dry as you can, and use those paper towels that you have. That's one of the things for which I use paper towels, is to help me store produce and vegetables in particular, especially those that have been washed, which all of them should be. And it helps them it keeps the water from wasting the foods, from wilting it, and from turning it black in many cases with lettuce and other herbs, green leafy herbs and foods. So use paper towels, and then in your plastic bags. And there are bags called green bags. Most grocery stores will have them. If they don't, ask the manager to get them. They come in packages of green bags that are different sizes, and they're literally green plastic, but they're a different kind of plastic that helps preserve the foods much better. So that will help. That's one thing you can do to help your food from being wasted. Another thing, Americans discard food that they think has gone bad. It's perfectly good and it's consumable because they misunderstand expiration labels. So I want to explain a little bit about that. There are things that are called sell-by dates and also use-by dates. And I know if especially if you're buying canned goods, canned soups and canned tomatoes and things of that nature, just as a fact, more than 80% of Americans discard perfectly good edible food because they don't understand them. So what I want to help you with is to understand what the use by label and the like their expirations. The use by label describes usually the quality, where the product may not taste the same or perform as expected. And that's their technical description of a use by. So if you get a food that says use by September 16th, use by today, and you don't use it until next week, usually if it's in a sealed package, such as a soup or something else that's totally sealed, that doesn't have spoilage, it will be edible. It may not taste the same because once you cook a food and prepare it and then you seal it completely, that food usually stops doing anything except for losing some of its flavor, especially when something is cooked and the enzymes are cooked and so forth. But the use by date, where you can actually use 2 weeks, a month, and often a few months later, that it will just have a little different taste, but make sure that it's not been exposed to the air at all. The other thing is the few products that are highly perishable, and you have some concern over the safety of using them. In that case, if you're really concerned about it, dispose of it carefully so that it isn't open, but it can be put into a landfill and it will be gone. So, just a few other little statistics that I thought were kind of interesting. There's a food waste movement going across America, and it's gaining momentum, but it needs to pick up speed because we have to tackle one of the this is one of the globe's most pressing problems, climate change. So not only does food waste affect your family monetarily, it also affects the world because when it wastes water and energy, and it has irreversible environmental consequences. 11% of the world's emissions, like methane gas, carbon dioxide, and chlorofluorocarbons, which are some of the things that come from food and plastics, contributes to global warming. And food sits in decays in landfills, and it also produces nitrogen pollution, which really causes things like algae to bloom, and it causes dead zones in water. According to the World Wildlife Federation, I'll read you this one. The production of wasted food in the United States is equivalent to the greenhouse emissions of 37 million cars. So if you're worried about your car's emissions and driving here and there and you're taking your bicycle, that's good. You need the exercise anyway. But as far as that goes, the food that we waste and sits in a landfill and decays is equivalent to the greenhouse emissions that destroy the ozone layer, which is our protective layer. And also, as I said, food waste costs money. And according to an organization that's a nonprofit one called Feeding America, Americans waste more than $218 billion, that's a B, dollars each year on food. Dairy products are probably the most prevalent ones that we throw out. We figure milk spoils, and it's very interesting because even homogenized milk will spoil. Raw milk, which you can get if you really want it, there are sources for raw milk in this country. Raw milk may turn to buttermilk, which can be used. Homogenized milk spoils, so it's thrown out. But if you throw out about 4 tons of food, and a family of 4 usually throws out about $1,600 a year in produce. And what's interesting to me is how we overbuy. That's another thing I want to recommend, that when you're going shopping, make a list. And the old adage, don't shop when you're hungry, because that's when you grab and you pull off things from the shelf and from the refrigerator that you don't really need, but it looks good because you're hungry. So try to make a list before you go to the grocery store every time. This will also help avoid some waste. And it's interesting because the 11% of the world's greenhouse gas emissions comes from food, from wasting it. And a lot of it is connected with restaurants. When restaurants buy and they don't eat produce, or they don't use the produce for what it was intended for, one of the things I've recommended is to connect yourself with an organization that takes care of feeding, like the food banks and other organizations that help use food that isn't used in a restaurant. If it's still good, it can be shared with other places, for the homeless. It can be shared in a number of different places. And too much food production, even the farms sometimes have to throw out food because they produce too much that is not consumed. So how do we tackle the food waste? Well, I've given you a few ideas. One is make a list before you go to the grocery store and think about what you already have in your pantry and your refrigerator before you buy more. That's where I find a lot of waste happens, where people will not look in the back of the bin to find out what's back there, what you've already stored. And so you have a lemon or a lime or, another orange or whatever that's perfectly usable. I do put my fruit and my vegetables into the refrigerator. In most cases, I will wash a fruit that has a skin, such as an orange or a lemon or lime, and I will wash that first and make sure it's dry before I put it in the bin. This also helps to prevent wasting and prevent wilting and spoilage. Make sure your foods are dry, the ones that you've washed, before you put them away. Get a lettuce spinner. You can use it for all kinds of greens. Also, check the expiration labels before you buy something. That's interesting because lately labels have changed and reading a label can be a challenge. One of the things that they have put on the labels now is not so much the spoilage dates that should be on certain things, most things that are in jars or cans. However, what they're doing now is also adding the vitamin and mineral content, which is very important. Because one of the things I find is that people are not so much deficient in vitamins other than vitamin D most of the time, but more so in minerals. And so look for read the labels. And if you don't understand them, my phone number was on here somewhere. Please give me a call and I'd be happy to do a freebie call with you and help you understand how to read a label. And maybe that's another thing we can speak to at another time. One of the other recommendations I make for storing food, freeze it. If you've got some green beans or you've got some prepared foods that you're not going to eat the whole thing and you don't want to repeat the meal the next day or for lunch or whatever, if it's dinner, then take it and put it in a sealed container, preferably glass, and freeze it. Freezing definitely helps to keep things fresher, and you can consume it at a later time and it'll be perfectly fine. Donate to food banks, as I said, to pantries, or some of your neighbors or someone you know who needs a little help. And maybe somebody who doesn't cook as well as you do, and you're going to give them a present. So take the leftover food to that. As I said, plan your meals and make your lists for shopping. And by the way, there is a company called imperfectfoods.com. And they I believe they're located in California, and they ship anywhere in the United States overnight, I think. But they sell, the dimpled stuff, like an apple that isn't perfectly beautiful, or lettuce that has a few little flaws. But they're perfectly fresh and good foods. They just don't look as pretty as the ones that land in the store. But they do taste good. They taste great. And I have one girlfriend who constantly buys from him, and she said she has never had a problem with any of the foods. They're just not as, in other words, if you get a cucumber that has a bend in it or something, or as I said, an apple with a flaw or something that's not perfectly symmetrical as it's supposed to be, but it tastes great. It's still the same good fruit. It just isn't as pretty. So look for that. When you're eating out, according to the Bureau of Statistics, labor statistics, people spend in America more than $3,000 a year per household eating out. So when you're going to eat out, be thoughtful and deliberate about where you're eating, first of all, and choosing your foods, because from my experience, many of the restaurants now, especially in Texas, sell Texas-sized portions, which in most cases is enough for 2 or 3 people to eat at one meal rather than one person. Therein lies the idea of the doggy bag or take-home carton. And if you know you're going to be taking home something, bring your own cartons so you don't have to add to the waste fill, because many of them are styrofoam or plastic. Bring your own. If you're going to a restaurant that you know serves large portions and you want to take home some more, as I said, bring your own. Take them with you so you can share them with somebody else or eat them yourselves or freeze them. And if you really want to help, when you go to an all-you-can-eat restaurant or buffet style, this is where you do mindful eating. And you take what you can eat and enjoy it. And enjoy the fact that I hope it's fresh and it's good for you. And we can follow models that are around the globe. For example, France requires restaurants to donate food that's at risk of being thrown out, but is still safe to eat. That's something they do in France. My daughter lives in Paris, and she tells me about that. In Sweden, I found this very interesting. They use food waste to create fuel to power public bus transit. There's a novel idea. And in Denmark, there's an app to find restaurants and bakeries that are about to close, and you can purchase their remaining food at very low prices. When you go to a farmer's market here, if you wait till the end of the day or the closing time, many of the vendors will sell you their foods at a lowered price. So they don't want to have the waste, and you benefit from that. So there are all these things that you can think of to help stop the food waste, or at least lessen it in the United States, and enjoy really good food. And that's really all I have to say right now from Ricki's Kitchen. Thank you.
Nice job, Ricki. Really shocking statistics, and we each need to do our part. That, as I mentioned, that is something that just drives me crazy with wasting of food, and
absolutely.
I see it quite often. So I appreciate you bringing that subject to light, and also the impact that it has on the climate and all those toxins that go into the environment. It's just, I've said to people, what are you going to do with that? I'm throwing it out. Well, what do you think is going to happen to it? Where do you think it's going? Do we ever think about all of this?
No,
and
people don't.
No, they don't. They just go, I'll just put it out in the corner. I'll just put it somebody else will take care of it. Somebody else's problem.
Unless you have a compost. And there are composters, I think, from this big to your whole yard. But it's really very possible to compost a lot of the foods. And if you can do it, if you have a safe place that won't be attacked by animals or, your own dog or cat, that's really a good idea, because then you recycle it and you can use it in your yard, whatever. And you can collect your neighbors some if you want to and help them understand it. But I think our ancestors used to do much more of that with recycling it, Diann, as far as I know, because I can remember my grandmother, and she taught me how to take some foods, recycle them into the next meal, using what's left over and creating something completely new. So
that's how I grew up, right? You're right.
Yes.
Yep.
So many great tips, and I love the fact that you both are presenting on the topic of food in one way or another. Once again, it happens. Complete fate that you two were together today, and lo and behold, it seems to happen every time. It's crazy. Well, we have to wrap up because I have a show starting in, I think, 1 minute. So I'm going to spot.
Great job.
I know there's so much to say, but I have a guest who's waiting in the other studio. So. Nice job, Ricki. I'm going to spotlight you. And again, for people who are listening on the radio, they're not watching, they can't read the banner. What's the best way to get in touch with you, and who should contact you?
Well, those people interested in food, for one thing, and learning how to really take care of themselves using food rather than medicines, because it is medicine. I am on Patreon, patreon.com/Ricki with an I, McHealthy, MC Healthy, and it's Ricki's Kitchen. I have to get that. It's a new website. I'm sorry. So try the Patreon one. Patreon.com/Ricki McHealthy, MC Healthy. Thank you.
Thank you, Ricki. Okay, Diann, how can people reach you? How can we buy your books? And if people have questions about how to start their own family cookbook, how can they get in contact with you?
Sure. Everyone, please feel free to contact me about your own family genealogy book. It would warm my heart. you can email me at me@diannfloydboehm.com, or you can just Google my name and my website will come up and you can reach me that way as well. My name is spelled differently, DIANNFLOYDBOEHM.com. And you can find my books in many places and local stores and order it, as well as Amazon, to make it nice and easy for you. So thank you so much for all your support.
Thanks, Diann. Lovely seeing you both.
Thank
All
you.
right, I'm just going to run the closing credits and hop over to the other studio where we have presenting pet psychic Amina, and our special guest is Alex Utterman. So thank you both, Ricki and Diann. Look forward to seeing you again soon. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.